Hello, friends, readers, and cement watchers. We have today with us a friend of ours, Mr. Rajneesh Kapoor, who's a very well-known personality in the Indian cement industry, not only Indian, but maybe also South Asian cement industry. And he also belongs to a company, JK Cement, which is very strategically located in the center of India and has therefore finger on the pulse of the Indian cement market. And we are lucky to have him today with us to give our viewers and readers a sense of what's happening at this kind of turning point in the economy, in the cement sector and in the economy as such. So, and for by way of formal introductions, Mr. Rajneesh Kapoor is a business head of Grey Cement in JK Cement. Uh, we are thankful to you that you are able to be here today and join us today, Rajneesh.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Sumit.
So the first and the all-important question is, when everything ground to a halt on 23rd, 24th March, and as I know, and you will perhaps agree, March is the most important year for most cement companies, and last week of March is even the most important period of March. So that must have had taken a toll on the last year's numbers and last quarter's numbers for you, right?
That's right. Yeah. So I think so. Yeah, certainly March being the end of the year is a time when you are looking for, last minute push and last minute things. But one had seen the writing on the walls, it was happening. Maybe some people are not reading it, but we were reading the news very carefully. Yeah. And I think somewhere in the beginning of March, one could see things will change. Yeah. So we were not really shocked by what happened.
Yeah, okay, I understand. So looking into the immediate future now, and also the fact that from 20th April, certain relaxations were given in respect of continuously running plants and in the green zones and in places where cement plants are. They are not exactly in the urban centers, excepting some ready-mix plants. You might have, one part of this question is you might have restarted some of your operations, and tell our viewers about how you have restarted those operations and with what kind of precautions and what are the challenges you have faced. That's one part of the question, a big part. And the other part is, it is one thing to have the permissions to restart the plants. It is another thing to have a demand and a pull in the pipeline of cement, which also sort of incentivizes you to restart plants. So how do you feel that pull? How do you feel that initial demand jerk from an all-out stoppage? So two parts to the question. One is about plant operations and challenges, etc. And the second one is immediate demand outlook.
So I think so. I'd just like to paint a scenario to you. Suddenly on 23rd of March, when the lockdown was announced in the country, all the cement companies had their cement trucks, in various parts of the country. They all got stuck wherever they were. Some in the godown, some on the road, some wherever we could put. And then everything came to a grinding halt. So the first thing that, immediately happened after that was to take stock of situation, to get immediately things under control, to know where in each and every ton of your cement is lying and what would be your action plan to retrieve it back. So the challenge started right from that time. And in fact, in our company, we actually started, working from home much before 23rd of March. And travel advisories were issued much before 23rd of March. I think maybe a week to 10 days before that, we had already started taking actions to start, taking care of the employees and taking, in a way, when you take care of your employees, you take care of your business, you take care of your stakeholders, everything. So all that was there. And therefore, we had a long time from 23rd of March till the time when finally some relative openings started up to start planning. So we used that time pretty well in painting different scenarios as to what will happen when the plants open up. So it was a very graded kind of a response we did, So we worked out that, okay, whenever things will ease out, we will first start with packing the cement which is lying in our silos. At that would mean minimal people inside the plant. Just pack the cement which you have got already made and start dispatching. And start focusing only on direct orders at that point of time. Don't go through the depots, because depots were mostly under lockout. Even as we speak today, there are a number of depots in red zones which are not operational. And then the second part of that was that, okay, once we are finishing the cement in the silo, we'll start operating the grinding part of the business. So we scale it up and then scale it up to the kiln. And it was actually most important to understand that while the cement plants are made to run, we are most comfortable when our plants are running. A kiln is a continuous process thing. It's not meant to be shut down, but the requirements, the challenges which came on to us and to the mankind in general brought this kind of an, situation which one could have never dreamed of, that all the plants are going to be shut. So, we did a number of things in that period, making sure that we are doing maintenance of the plants, rotating certain parts which need to be rotated, ensuring where lubrication is to be done, whatever preventive maintenance is to be done when your plant enters into a shutdown mode. And my experience of, mothballing equipment when I was in the Indian Army, when we were not using, came in pretty handy for us to, start planning as to how we will make sure that once we press the button, the machine starts operating. So it was a smooth start for us. It helped us that, we also got orders and permissions to operate our plants in a graded manner, in a phased manner. The first plant that we got operational, to be made operationalized, was in Muddapur, which is close to Bagalkot, in Belgaum, where we started our operations. It was in a rural area. So we started learning. And we had by the end of March and beginning of April, we had already made a COVID response playbook, where we had started writing down in very simple terms as to what needs to be done, what kind of infra needs to be done, an important raw material which emerged, which is not exactly a raw material, but a business, continuity kind of an thing which is needed was, do you have adequate PPEs? Do you have sanitizers? Do you have, monitoring mechanisms? Because it is not a scenario where, one miss, you can penalize the chap. Sumit, with your experience in ACC, would know that in safety, we used to in Holcim try to push so much, but yet we had a kind of a thing where we would keep, reiterating the point and keep penalizing people. Here, penalizing is not enough, because if you have allowed a leak to happen in your plant, you have risked the health of the complete plant operations, and you've also risked your business. So I think it was a good experience for us, and it was a very learning experience where we proactively engaged with our team on grounds, interacted with them, and almost on an weekly basis or sometimes bi-weekly basis, got all our plant teams together, discussed what we need to do, and learned with every experience that every mistake we picked up, we learned and shared it across the plants. So as we speak today, my integrated plant in Karnataka is fully operational, and we are running it, with just 30% people inside. Now that's a new learning. Maybe it's a learning for the future for cement industry, that we start looking at how we can, work with lesser number of people. And the smile on your face tells it, because all of us face this challenge of, high numbers of, FTE count in the plants. And then, very early in the process, we started looking at paperless functioning. And we have taken up a complete drive within our organization to go totally paperless. And we are going to actually approach the government for various things which can be made paperless, because paper today is also a source of carrying infection. So, and to get paperless onto, so there are activities where the paper can wait and you can look at it after 2 days, so that does not impact your business. But there are activities when the driver enters your premises and he wants to, you want to deliver, it's a continuous process, a real-time processing is needed. So we started working on those things, and we got good success in that. We have our plant in Rajasthan. Our Nimbahera plant falls between the municipal limits of Nimbahera city, which is, I think, currently in orange because they've got about 25 odd cases which have got positive. But the Mangrol plant, which is co-located 10 kilometers away, is running. We were till yesterday running it on grinding and planning to start the clinkerization operations from today onwards. My grinding units in Aligarh and in Jhajjar in Haryana are both operational. So we are running the plants. we had started thinking of moving the labor in, because we realized that your labor cannot come from outside. So we started creating hutments. We started, vacating some of the some of the buildings where some offices were there, which we thought we couldn't, we might not use in the beginning. Creating space for staff, for supervisors, for people to stay inside the plant, food, all those things. So I think all that was, in the readiness of the plant operations. Coming to the demand, all of us perceive that moment the industry opens up or the business starts opening up, there's going to be an initial surge in the demand because of certain projects which would have been stopped or stalled. It's like, sudden stop button coming into whatever was happening. And there were certain things were to be done. So I think there was a decent kind of an requirement wherever the sectors opened up. But the labor having moved out from construction sites, the people who were making, let's say IHB, who was making their houses, losing some sort of confidence as to what they're going to do, and people fighting for their survival. The demand has been not as, despite the initial, spike in the demand, we are seeing about 25-30% of an average kind of an demand at this point of time. Can't hear you, Sumit. Cannot hear you.
Just a minute. So, can you hear me now? Yeah. So,
yeah,
now what I understand is that the demand currently that you are witnessing is about 25-30% of the normal demand of the month of April, May.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Okay, so that's a recovery, but not a very sharp recovery.
Yep.
On the subject of the the hygiene, the safety, the PPEs, you have said a lot already, and 30% labor force for operations, etc., etc. As it is, mining and cement process plant operations are a little bit spacious, and social distancing is largely possible. But I was a little curious about the bagging and wagon loading activities and truck loading activities, which are more labor intensive. So what are the challenges there? I mean, are you looking at automation in the future? That's of course in the long term, but in the short term, what are the social distancing challenges there, as well as migrant labor, reverse migration issues, if any?
Yeah, I think so. These are some of the challenges which all of us are facing in various forms. Yes, so there are a number of operations where you can maintain physical distancing, and there are a number of operations where you have the challenge of maintaining physical distancing. And especially, as you rightly pointed out, in the packing, in the loading part of the packing, there is a challenge. So we have actually, given permission to our unit heads and to our technical heads in the plants that they can operate their plants at lower efficiency. So for example, if I was taking out 10,000 tons from a packing arrangement in my plant on a normal circumstance, today I'm looking at 6,000 to 7,000 tons. So that gives us, we are not speeding up. So we are not looking at efficiency just from the pure terms of efficiency of the equipment output. Here also the efficiency, which is very importantly being seen, is the efficiency of the coronavirus precautions that we are taking. And because we know that a slip up on this, while we may get 2,000 tons more on a particular day, if we, forego all these kind of precautions that need to be taken, or a way of life that needs to be followed, but it can actually bring the whole plant to a grinding halt if we somewhere, miss out on that. So the first point was to give an assurance to people, and my assurance to my team is that irrespective of the pressure that they get on performance, on delivery, on pressure of demand or whatever, they are not going to violate the first principle, which is to make sure everybody works safely. That order transcends my order, that order transcends anybody's order in my company, and people have got clear directions that they have to, first follow the norms of safety, and then we will do business. So I think that is just about all, because there will be a need for people to get a slightly closer to each other, especially in packing operations, but it can be done safely, wearing right PPE, making sure that the vehicles are sanitized. You know, we were the first to install the sanitizing thing for people who walk inside, and then we realized that there were guidelines which said that you can't do it. So we immediately adapted those to, you know, sanitize our vehicles which come in. And so today we sanitize the vehicles which move in through an automated thing. The drivers stay inside the vehicle when they come inside. We take care of their needs in terms of food or anything. I think we have to look at it from a very humane angle for migrant labor. I sometimes, you know, the empathy is very important. Put yourself in the shoes of a migrant labor who's 1,500 kilometers away from his house, who knows that the world is facing a virus which does not, you know, respect class barriers. You know, it is across. It can happen to anybody. And if something happens to him, he won't even see the face of his house and family. So we have taken a very humane approach to people going back, because if they are going to go back, they will go back. But we are telling them the benefits of what will happen if they stay with us. We are taking care of their insurance. We are taking care of, you know, their basic hygiene and other things, and the challenges that they face when they reach their home station, where they might be quarantined again, and those kind of things. But we have in our plants very clearly told people that if you have to go systematically. Just don't go on the roads and then starve to death. We will organize permission from government authorities and you can go. So I think that is an important message. Empathy with the workforce is very important, because whatever, you know, all of us may say, ultimately it's the last rung which is actually running the business. And we see in construction sites, we see in loading sites, we see in the plants, these kind of challenges. So I think there is no, you know, no one prescription. In my different plants, different kind of challenges come up, and we apply different medicine in different plants. Importantly, I think strong business sense with empathy to people, I think, is something which will lead the way, and a guiding rule that there will be no compromise on any violation. No violation will be allowed. We have real-time monitoring set. We have, you know, since we are only working with 30% people, we've got people now, you know, monitoring on real-time basis through cameras and digital means, which are so advanced now. And real-time giving a message if they find any violation at the gate in terms of temperature measurement or in terms of, you know, hand washing and things like that.
Yeah, great. You have talked about a few things which are probably going to be the new normal in a post-COVID-19 scenario. For example, you have this interesting initiative of trying to go more and more towards a paperless office, which is very interesting and important at the same time for, you know, if we assume that the infection is going to be there with us for some time, and these kind of precautions are going to be very important. And also what you talked about the relaxation of the efficiency norms, etc., in the crowded places like bagging and loading, etc. Nice, thanks. I want to ask you now about cash flows. It's the one thing that everybody is talking about today, and there are a lot of analysis going around companies which are leveraged, companies which are less leveraged, and who can ride out the storm and who can not ride out the storm, and stuff like that. So everybody is trying to conserve cash is what the sense we get. And my understanding of the cement industry has been that it has been generally always working capital comfortable. But has anything changed in the current situation in terms of your strategy towards cash flow and working capital, given the very extraordinary situation that we are in? And a corollary to that question is, do you or have you initiated any special support systems or any special support for the MSMEs and the small service providers, etc.?
Yeah, so I think this is the most important question for the survival of businesses now, because ultimately it is cash. Cash is the blood which runs in the body, and if that stops, the body will not survive. So just to get back to the question, I think so. Yes, cash is the is the blood that is running in the veins of a company, and you cannot let it drain out. And it's extremely important to conserve cash. So at this point of time, there are both short-term and long-term measures that all organizations will be taking. I can talk specific to our company. We are looking at everything from a perspective. I think the most important bottom line that we are doing is we are looking at everything in a humane manner. the culture of my organization, the culture of the Singhania family, who are the promoters of this business, have been that they always make sure that the lowest people down the ladder are taken care of. And that has been the starting line. And I think the first tone of the agenda was set when one of our promoters, the Chief Operating Officer of Grey Business, Sri Madhav Krishna Singhania, right, I think on the first or second day of the lockdown, came out in public on a video recorded message and made a statement that we are going to protect the salaries of all our people.
Wonderful.
So that, and also our channel partners. So we did that, but then that we have to run the business. So there are some hard calls that we need to take. So we started, so there are two parts. Our CFO is looking at on the long-term perspective and doing, gaming and planning cash flow for a 2-year kind of horizon as to how we will be, working on a 2-year horizon. We have identified all cash outgoes, which can currently, anything which was good to have and nice to have has been stopped. Anything which is required to run the business has been kept. We have started looking at all our org structures afresh. So there are two angles, two things we are doing. One is immediate short term, next 2-3 months. And one is things which will stick around, because I think that this crisis is going to stay long. It's not going to go away in 2-3 months. It's at least one financial year long. So we are looking at 2-3 steps. Step one is to conserve all cash outgoes. Simple things, like when the day we shut down our plants, we were consuming over 120,000 units of power in all our shutdown plants. And with a little bit of, monitoring, in 2 days' time, it was brought down to 35,000 units. So conserve where you can. Then be careful in whatever spend that you are doing. Every cash out is monitored by me and our accounts team in a closed manner as to see wherever we could go back and negotiate with big vendors on payment terms, which could get relaxed, we did. We started focusing on collection of money. So we connected with our dealers right at the beginning of the, much before probably the lockdown was announced. We started talking and reaching out to them that this virus is impacting you all. We are there with you. We never spoke to them about money that they owe us, but they gave it to us on their own, on the relationship that we built with them. And I'm happy to say that our collections have been among the best in the last 2 months. We also created a collection engine where we gave them some incentive on collection of money. We have also tied up, with banks to have dealer financing, because financing of dealers is going to be a big, big challenge in the coming months. The business also has to run, because if the heart is not pumping, the blood is not going to move. So I think the engine is heart has to keep pumping. The demand has to keep coming. Our dealers have to stay healthy to ask for the, supply, and we have to give it to them. And we are looking at, Sumit, across the board measures, be it CapEx, be it OpEx, be it, people. On the people front, we are going little, it's a sensitive matter. We are also looking, as a company, we donated 1 month's salary to the PM's relief fund. We are now looking at, various certain other measures which will help us, like we delayed our increments by 6 months without impacting anything. We said, okay, we'll take a call on increments in the month of October. So such kind of things, I think, and so many. And as I'm saying this, I think there is more that needs to be done, because as I think I just read today morning Jack Ma's statement that companies which stay alive in this year are the companies which will fight in the coming year. So we will make sure that everything that we do conserves cash. I think that is a mantra for all companies today.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I'm absolutely sure, 100% sure that you are one of the healthier companies in the country, and you will survive to see not 1 year, but many, many years. Does that mean our discussion about cash conservation, etc. right now, does that mean that all the capex, which includes small and medium capex inside the plants, etc., sometimes for energy conservation projects, sometimes for life enhancement, and sometimes for capacity balancing and augmentation, all those are under hold, or are you continuing with those capexes?
So you see, this was fortunately a time, when you start planning your capex cycle for next year. This happened in the month of March. We follow the financial year. So our capex planning budget for the next year was made. I think before the lockdown was announced, we had already reviewed that and identified as to what all other things which are good to have and, nice to have, we stopped them. What are the things which are urgent, which will require our operational efficiency? We have kept them. But we have actually, we are also, at this point of time in the process of commissioning a grinding unit in Gujarat. And we are also in the process of upgrading one of our old kilns in Nimbahera. And in the process of completing certain part of our brownfield expansion in Mangrove. So we're doing all that, but we've taken a re-look at all that and prioritize the cash out, So I would not say that CapEx has been a total stop, but whatever we could have stopped, we have stopped. Whatever was in a stage where I have spent 80% and it's going to give me cash back, I am progressing with it. And a lot of areas, Sumit, are such where even if we wanted to do anything, we cannot do anything for 3 months for want of, machinery items to come to your plant, for specialized labor to fly down and things like that. So I think it required a real hard look at all these kind of, steps. Some of them have been stopped. Some of them have been made to go slow. And some of them are going on as usual, as the current conditions are. But certainly the cash out has been controlled significantly in this part.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. We are almost nearing the end of the conversation and this discussion. The last and final question, which is of course of great interest to all of us and particularly to the cement watchers, is what's the current financial year, what we might say FY21, what might it look like from cement demand point of view? It's a bit of futuristic crystal ball gazing kind of question, but then who else can we ask that question other than people, experts like you who have insights into the market and whose guesswork will be more educated than the lay citizens of the country. So how do you look at FY21 panning out? And for example, ICRA has come out with a analysis yesterday that FY21 is going to see a drop of 10%, decline of 10% in cement demand in the full year. What's your view? And if there is going to be a growth in any of these 3 segments, rural, urban, or infrastructure, where do you see some kind of growth happening? Which of these segments do you see will turn healthier faster than the others?
I think so. It's a very important question, and this is what keeps us awake in the night these days to understand as to how the market is moving and where it is going. My guess is only a guess, and I do not bring. I don't say that I bring any qualified numbers here, but it's a guess that we do, and I think it's important to be slightly optimistic in these times. At the same time, to be very, very realistic. I do not see the Q1 to go anything more than 30 to 40% of last year. Because I think we are still seeing, you can see how the districts are changing from red to green to orange to, different parts. Somewhere there is a complete lockdown, somewhere it is red. And I think we are going to have this bleeping lights across the country in the next 3 to 6 months. Something will be red today, it may move towards orange, get back to red, get back to green. It will keep happening. And as the inter-district movements open up, it will again be. So I think the Q1, I'm not looking at more than 30%. Lucky, if we are very lucky, close to 40%. Q2, my estimate is between 50 to 60, 50%, 60%, depending. The problem that all of us face is that we are the mankind has not seen 1 year of this virus. So we don't know what is the cycle. Will it re-emerge? Is it going to be a V or a W? So there are so many kind of guesses coming. Is it a V kind of a thing or a W kind of a thing? So we don't know. But my guess is that Q2 will be better than Q1. But Q2 normally starts having monsoon. So overall, in absolute numbers, it might not be very great. But as compared to last year, it might start improving and maybe about 50%. Q3, I am expecting between 60 to 70% kind of a number. It's Q4 where we feel that if we have got our act together and if we have got, across the globe, some sort of, solutions coming with vaccines, adequate testing, herd immunity, and so on and so forth. And I think more importantly, the lesson that we learned from some of the places where we do businesses that initially the local community took precautions very lightly. And it only needed 2 cases, 1 or 2 cases in their locality for people to suddenly wake up and start following the new norms on their own. And I think it's a cultural shift for mankind, and India, we take a little bit of time to adapt to these things. But Q3, Q4, I think should go to about 90, maybe 100, maybe 80% kind of a thing. So overall, I don't see, Sumit, this year anything more than 60 to 70% of the last year's number. That's, I will be so happy, you know, if the numbers are more than this. So we are planning at these numbers, we are looking at these numbers, and we are changing our perspective at every fortnight, you know, as things change, and try to see what kind of, you know, LE that we can expect. In terms of demand drivers, I think, yes, initially rural India has been the demand driver. You would see in various government, you know, directives also, they are allowing a lot of things in rural India. There are 2 reasons for that. One, in any case, the density of population in rural India is less. It's more easy to manage that there. And second, I think the rural incomes, the food grain income should still not get impacted. So the villager typically, if the monsoons are good and the season is good, and if the government is able to give him decent price for his, you know, produce, should have money in his pocket to make houses. On the IHB segment in, you know, tier A and tier B, tier A cities, I think, or let's say the metropolitan cities, as you can see, the numbers of Bombay, Pune, Delhi, and other big cities are not going to open up so easily. And so they are not going to be, you know, we don't visualize too much of demand coming from these markets. Most important thing would be, how would government drive various infra projects that government is promising to take on? And in our interactions with various forums as CMA and through CII, with for various, you know, agencies of government, we only ask for one support from them, and that is, give us demand. Create enough opportunities for demand to come, balance the Indian cement industry is resilient, it will take care of it. So I think in terms of, you know, the demand drivers at this point of time, as we have already seen, you know, even in the government orders which have come for various opening up and areas where they are easily allowing things to happen are firstly the rural areas. Rural areas have got a distinct advantage that the distances and the population density being less, it's easier to enforce, you know, the distancing, the social and the physical distancing. And we have seen that, you know, even at this point of time, the initial cement demand also, a lot of it came from rural areas. The movement of vehicles is easier there. The requirements, you know, are easier. And the other point which I feel which is going to be greatly important is that, you know, in the coming times, the financial health of, let's say, the village and the rural areas is going to be slightly better, because the coronavirus might not have impacted them as much as it would have impacted the urban or semi-urban communities, where the business depends a lot on so many other things, or the earnings depend a lot on so many other things.
Agree.
So if there is a good, you know, year in terms of monsoons and good crop produce, and people are able to get good price for their produce, I think they will be having that, you know, financial strength to carry on with their work which they are doing. So normal demand in rural should come in. And the other point, extremely important, rural areas are not dependent on migrant labor for their work. You generally have labor from the sites. So that helps you in, you know, keeping the complete cycle closed. An area which we are closely watching is the area how government is going to, you know, give fillip to the demand. And there are a lot of initiatives and plans which have been, you know, disclosed by government, which have been announced, and which are very sure that they are very sincere about it. Those are going to be the, you know, clearly. So whenever we as CMA interact, or we as cement industry interact with government, we only ask and request for one thing: give us the demand, give us, generate construction activities. And cement industry in India is resilient. We are the second largest industry in the world. We have some of the best performance parameters. So I think we would be able to, you know, take care of balance part of it as long as the demand comes. So we are really looking at infra demand in terms of roads and highways, and in terms of such big projects. Metro cities, especially big cities, the big 4 or the big 5, as you call, Delhi, Pune, Hyderabad, and, you know, other places, Mumbai, we are seeing the impact, and we are not looking much growth coming from these places. We are not also expecting many new projects to start, Sumit, at this point of time, because I think the inventory of already finished houses or office spaces which is lying is still available for people to buy. So I think little conservative on that, but the demand driver certainly rural, and then the government spend in infra.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that taking a cue from your point, I mean, more commercial office space will soon become available because people will continue to work from home, many people at least.
Yeah.
And commercial space demand is definitely going to see a bit of a write down.
No, I think one important learning, Sumit, which has come to all of us is that how we can use, electronic mediums and, work digitally, connect with people, and I think as efficiently as ever. And when we are working from home at this point of time, sometimes we feel that we are better off, traveling 40 minutes to the office and getting 40 minutes from office back. Yeah. Because here it is back to back, you don't need a meeting room available. You don't need to travel anywhere. You can just connect. And I think the way the business is being done is being reshaped. Actually, we have all been hit in the mankind by something which we had never thought of. And it is going to change the way we are going to do. So we were actually contemplating, why do we need to have so many meetings which we used to have earlier? Mm-hmm. Because everything last so many days we are doing this digitally, and everybody is picking it up. So I think, the need to travel and the need to, move out, and office space is going to go.
Right. So, I mean, just to paraphrase, what you said in answer to this last question, which is quite important. Did you say that quarter by quarter analysis of the prognosis of the cement market for FY21 tells us that, in your view, we might look at a 30% degrowth of cement consumption, because you said, it cannot be more than 70% of last year's demand. So 30% degrowth of decline or degrowth of demand in FY21. Is that your assessment?
Yeah, that's what I think at this point of time, while one cannot really be very certain about it.
No. Yeah.
I think it's in the region of 30, maybe 40% also, depending on how it goes. But we are looking at that, So look at it, 1 month is almost lost in this last month of April. Not even 25% of the overall April has gone. So if you look at just that, 8.33% is already vanished.
Yeah. Right.
So that is already gone.
Yeah.
And this month, let's say half of it goes. So 12.33. That much demand is already gone. So
okay.
Can't be recovered, in the coming times.
Okay. Yeah. So on a humorous note, maybe some of your urban dealers may be well advised to switch to selling masks and sanitizers. What do you say?
Yeah. I think important message, Sumit, on this, one important message on this is that, I think masks are very important, and we have all realized that just buying the masks commercially may not be viable. So as a country, I think what we have to do is to come out with homemade solutions. And those solutions are equally effective, if not more effective. And actually, I am encouraging, across my dealer network and my, retail outlets and my depots, people to use masks. And it's not very difficult. You just need a piece of cloth, which at least in India is in abundance. So to use that for mask, I think that is important. And soap and water is also there. I think so. These are there. Yes, people will look for various opportunities. I don't think that cement shops can, really look at that. But yes, on the mask part and, connecting with your depots and making sure that they're also, these kind of. So we have to actually, what we are trying to do in our company is look at end to end and go down to the lowest possible level and see how they can implement, the safety norms. The desire to make them safe and also to make sure that our complete value chain stays safe is very important. Yeah. So I think all the cement companies at this point of time have started making sanitizers in-house.
Okay.
In our quality labs and other places, because it's not very difficult to make it.
Yeah,
you need it in abundance.
Yeah.
And the other point which is very important, which we have taken a call in our companies, whatever infra now we are doing for, in terms of corona precautions, be it hand washing arrangements or sanitizing arrangements and things like that, we are not doing a short term or let it be temperature recording. So we are going for thermal scanners in the gates. We are going for those things which will be technology aided and superior technology, because I think this is going to stay for next 18 months. It might improve, but the precautions will have to stay for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. So basically what you are saying is the rules of running factories and rules of running businesses will change, if not forever, at least for the medium term.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So on that note, somewhat somber and serious and contemplative note, let us conclude our discussion by saying grateful thanks to you for spending your time with us for the benefit of our viewers and readers. Do you want to give anything? Have we missed anything important, or do you want to give any special parting message to the audience, to the readers of Cement?
No, I think only one message and nothing very specific. I personally feel that I think we will overcome as a country. We are being led very ably by our government, by the Prime Minister. I think we all feel proud the way India has reacted to the lockdowns. Importantly, I think most important part which is there is that everybody needs to understand that this is a virus which we can all defeat if every one of us takes a call that I am not going to propagate it. It's actually very simple. If that communication goes down to every individual that I will not do anything which will propagate this virus cannot spread. It's the foolishness you will see wherever the mass cases have come. So I think the only message and only request that I keep doing to all the people with whom I talk in my team or wherever is that make sure that you don't do anything to spread it. Rest will all be taken care of. And if you take care of, you don't spread it, you actually avoid getting it also.
Right.
Because you have got a mask and you're washing your hands and you're doing all the sanitizing, so you will not get it also. So in my safety lies your safety, in your safety lies my safety, I think, and do not allow anyone to, breach that. I think that's the most important thing. If all of us do it, we will overcome it. India is a great country, and I think one has a lot of faith that as a country we are going to emerge very strong. Actually, there are great opportunities for our country, given the geopolitical conditions now and the way people are looking at, the world at this point of time. India's manufacturing sector, I think, has a chance which it never had. And now, post this coronavirus, we should emerge as a strong economy and for us and as a particular JK Cement, we like to emerge as the strongest cement company.
Thank you, and all the best to you and your colleagues. Look forward to such interactions in the future.
Thank you, Sumit. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.